Well, no,
So
see.
we're going to call this November meeting of the Lenore County Board of Education to order. We'll recognize Mr. Williams for the invocation.
Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff members, and administrators in our school system, and may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the board agenda as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Hill,
Second.
second by Mr. Nobles. Any discussion about the agenda for this evening? Then all in favor of the agenda being approved, raise your right hand. The agenda for this evening is approved. Next item is the board chair comments. I think we've got a pretty long meeting tonight, so I'm not going to trouble you with a lot of comments tonight. We're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by reading a letter. We don't often get good comments about our children. And this one came to us, and I thought it was worthy of just a minute here at the board agenda. It started out, good afternoon, Ms. Greer, and this is from Ms. Pendleton from Moss Hill. This lady says, I am Linda Cooper, and I live in southern Wayne County. I wanted to share my experience with you while eating at the Pizza Inn in Goldsboro, North Carolina. My mother is 89, has been homebound for the past several months. Today, she felt like getting out and wanted pizza. We drove to the Pizza Inn and immediately saw a Lenore County activity bus. Our first thought was, this might not be a good idea. Children excited to be eating out and an unstable senior citizen are not usually a good mix. We decided to give it a try. I was so impressed by the children and staff in this restaurant. If I had not seen the bus parked in the lot at the back, I would never have known school children were there. It was amazing. The children were polite and waited their turn to be helped by the staff and or volunteers. There was no pushing, arguing, or impatience on the part of anyone in the group. In our world of nothing but bad things said about our children, these students and the ones who were on the trip with them should be commended. It was a real pleasure to have eaten lunch together. My mother and I both enjoyed our outing. I would like to share this letter with the superintendent, which of course you did. Please feel free to do so on my behalf. Thank you for the dedicated staff who are teaching children not only in the classroom, but also in public arenas. Sincerely, Linda Cooper and Pauline Jeanette. So, congratulations to Moss Hill. Okay, South Lenore High School student Colby Holland, I believe she's here with us tonight, is serving as the sole student representative on the Governor's School Safety Task Force, a group of 20 appointments drawn from across the state to work with the North Carolina Center for Safer Schools on school security and student safety issues. In case you didn't catch that, she is the only student on the state committee, and she is from South Lenore High School. 15 LCPS teachers were awarded Bright Ideas grants totaling $12,543 from Tri-County Electric Membership Corporation. 6 of the grant awards went to teachers at Pink Hill Elementary, and 4 went to faculty members at North Lenore High School. Additionally, Kim Collette of Kinston High School and Crystal Suggs and Pamela Stanley of Southeast Elementary School won Bright Ideas grants awarded by North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. Congratulations to all those teachers. Great job. Yvonne Hardy of Woodington Middle School and Maria Delgado of Woodington Middle and South Lenore High Schools were featured presenters at last week's annual Bridging the Gap conference on K-6 STEM learning. Thank you to those teachers. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mazinga. The next item is public comment. Did we have anyone signed up? No, I understand that we don't have anyone signed up. Next item is the presentation portion of our agenda. The First item is high school student summer highlights. If Mr. Williams would like to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're honored to have with us tonight 3 of our students from all 3 of our traditional high schools. Last month, you heard from a student from Early College, and we're honored to have with us tonight 3 other representatives who will share with you experiences and highlights from their summer enrichment programs and opportunities that they were involved in, some on the college campuses and some other opportunities. We're very excited to have with us Landon Powell from Kinston High School, Colby Holland from South Lenoir High School, as Dr. Mazingo mentioned earlier, and Holly Holder from North Lenoir. Landon will present information about his experiences with Governor School. Colby will talk about her selection to be part of the Governor's Task Force for School Safety in collaboration with the Center for Safer Schools and Ms. Kim Martin. And I just have to say before Colby comes up, and she'll be second in the rotation, but before she comes up, Ms. Martin placed a special call to let me know how impressed the Governor and the entire task force assembled there, how impressed they were with this student from Lenoir County Public Schools. So Colby, you impressed me, so great job. And Holly Holder will talk about her experiences this summer on the campus of Duke University. So very proud of her as well. Okay, Landon will be first. Now, these students were nominated by their schools to share with you.
Presentation.
Okay.
Sure.
Here comes some help for you.
Yes, sir.
Christy Pepper.
Yeah. It was simple.
Alright, my name is Landon Powell, and this summer I attended Governor School West. I was at the campus of Salem College in Winston-Salem. So I just kind of want to start off talking about what Governor School is. Governor School is a 6-week residential program with emphasis on higher learning. There's a big emphasis on interdisciplinary learning too. So while you're there, you've got 3 groups. You got Group 1, which is the area you go for. For me, that was natural science. And then Group 2 and Group 3 are common to all students, with Group 2 being philosophy and Group 3 being a sociology class. So while you're there, you learn a lot of in-depth information about this subject you're studying. And then you learn a lot about philosophy and sociology. And then you learn about the interactions between all 3 of those. So how Governor School affected me. First of all, with my learning in natural science, it encouraged higher learning for me. It made me excited about learning more stuff about natural science. I was really anticipating like a rigorous coursework, and that's what I got when I got there. So there was a lot of fun, could be a good word to use that, but yeah, it really encouraged me to pursue higher learning. But then unexpectedly, I really enjoyed the philosophy and sociology aspects of the program. It was really interesting to learn about social issues and how they affect like my own subject area as natural science, and how philosophy and sociology could be intermixed with it. That was really interesting, and I feel like that's something that I'll use further on with my college education and with a career in the professional sphere. That will be really useful to me as I look to better the community around me that I'm in. So one specific area I did want to focus on was the implications that being from Kinston had on my experience at Governor School, and how my experience at Governor School could further affect Kinston. So first of all, Kinston, we're from a rural county. I came up through Banks and then Frink, so that was kind of a rural aspect for me. That was a rural cultural environment. But then I attend Kinston High School, which is an inner city school, and that provides like a different cultural environment for me there. So while I was at Governor School, I took this perspective and I helped. It added a different perspective to all the other people. A lot of the people were from Mecklenburg County, like Charlotte, or from Raleigh, big towns like that. And it was a little different having a perspective from me coming from a rural county and then going to an inner city school. So with like interactions with my peers at Governor School, that really affected them to bring a different perspective. Also, coming from Governor School, I'm now more aware of social issues. I'm more involved in topics such as that, and I'm interested in pursuing higher education, particularly in the medicine field, and I plan on using that to come back and better the community around me. So I feel Governor School has helped me in that way, that I can come back to Kinston, being more socially aware, make an impact now, and then in the future come back and make an impact on the area from which I'm from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Landon. Any questions for Landon? Okay,
Great job, Lynn.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Colby.
I am the only student, I am Colby Holland, and I am from South North High School. I am the only student from the whole North Carolina out of the state that was chosen out of, I think, about 52 students to be on the governor's task force on Safer Schools. I am on a subcommittee about bullying, but we also cover the drugs and the alcohol that's in the schools and trying to prevent like intruders to come in. How can we solve that problem? What I'm doing now is I'm researching, it's called Match, and it's for bullying, like ways to build clubs in our school to prevent bullying. I was actually chosen to nominated, I guess you could say, by Mr. Matt Dowdy and Mr. John Bell, and that was out of 52 students, and I was chosen. There's a new app that y'all may be aware of. It's called Speak Up. I don't know if y'all have been told about that, but
Just two stages, we haven't had a chance to present it to them.
well, what it's about is you can pull it up on your phone or on a computer anywhere. You know, if some kids don't have a cell phone because they are being bullied, they can go to the library and pull it up on the computer. It's called Speak Up, and you can click bullying, alcohol, drugs, weapons, and if, say Mr. Sandman was bullying me, I could type on bullying and say, Mr. Sandman is bullying Colby, and he'll get it. He'll get the notification on his computer or his cell phone, whatever was better for him.
Please send that to me.
But it's, I'm really honored to be chosen by the governor to be on this task force. And I do thank y'all for letting me speak.
Okay, any questions for Colby?
Now, I hope you'll come back and share some of their ideas with us after you serve for a while.
Yes, sir.
We'd love to hear them.
Okay. Thank you, Colby. Okay, now we have Holly Holder.
Please forgive me, I have no idea how to do technology. Okay. Good evening, members of the North County Board and guests. My name is Holly Holder, and that's still not connected.
He's coming to help.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Again, like he said, my name is Holly Holder, and I'm a senior at North Lenore High School. And I would like to take the next few minutes to share with you my experience at Duke University Summer College for Credit. This past year, I was looking at different academic programs that I could enjoy over summer, similar to North Carolina Governor's School. And I applied to both Emory College and Duke University. And when it came down to it and I had to choose between the two, I had to choose Duke because, one, it was an opportunity to actually earn college credit, and two, it was an opportunity to earn college credit at my personal dream school. And I love Duke. I've always loved Duke. And when I got accepted into Duke, I can't even tell you how excited I was. I got the email, and the first line of the email said, "Congratulations on being a Duke student." And it went on to say, you know, summer college, this is how you're going to arrive, etc. But I kind of took a screenshot of it, and I cropped out the sentence that said, "Congratulations on becoming a Duke student." And I saved it. And it's in my camera roll still, so hopefully I'll see those words in the future, but if not, I still have that always to hold on to. The application process for both of these summer programs, they were more intense than I thought they would be. You had to send in your transcript, you had to get letters of recommendation, you had to turn in your resume and write essays, and it definitely prepared me for what I've been facing this year as a senior. My first day at Duke was very intimidating. I ended up having a single room. I thought I was going to have a roommate, and I ended up in a single room. And at first that kind of upset me because I didn't know anybody on campus. But one of the hall monitor people came and pulled me aside, and they said, you know, you may be upset now, I totally understand. But when classes get rolling, you will love having a space to yourself. And she was most definitely right, because at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're studying, you kind of want to have the room to yourself. So I understood her point there. And also, the thing that Duke did very, very well is that they made sure that your dorm hall was a wonderful community and home away from home, where you felt safe and at ease walking around and making new friends. My hallway was a cultural experience in and of itself. We had girls from Beijing, China, the Philippines, we had a girl from Brazil, and all over Northern America. And the campus in and of itself, there were 267 students who were accepted. 80% of the students on campus were from foreign countries. So you would go around and introduce yourself, and you'd hear, "Hi, I'm from London, and I'm from California, I'm from Beijing," and I'd always say, you know, "Hey, I'm Holly, I'm from about 2 hours from here." But yeah, it was amazing just meeting all these new people, and I was intimidated coming in at first, knowing that I was coming from a high school that's classified as rural, but once classes started rolling, I realized that the teachers here in Lenore County very much well prepared me for the task ahead. And that task ahead was taking a class on evolutionary anthropology. I ended up loving this class, and I cannot describe to you enough how much I love this class. The professor was fun and innovative, and as a student, it was hard not to get sucked into his energy and his passion for the subject he taught. And another amazing thing about studying at Duke is they had access to all of these fossils or different models of the fossils that we were studying. So instead of having to read what something would look like from a textbook, we could go to class the next day and handle it and physically touch it and move it around and better know what we were studying. And one of the experiments that we did that will forever stay in my mind is something called the toilet paper experiment, which doesn't seem too educational and too prestigious, but what it is you unroll an entire roll of toilet paper. And you don't want to be the person unraveling the toilet paper, because it's a very lonely job, because once you get at the end of the hallway, everyone's like at the other end of the hallway, and that was my job. But you have basically write every single sheet of toilet paper is 10 million years, and you write different fossils that were discovered that you date back to these certain time periods. And so you have pretty much a timeline of Earth's history that we have documented for. And the lineage of humanity and humanity itself doesn't appear until the very last sheet. And so you stand at the end of the hallway and you see just this extremely long miniature timeline of Earth's history, and you realize how young and how new humanity really is, and it's very humbling. Besides just having your mind blown in class, we also had different fun experiences at Duke. studying on Duke's campus was magical in and of itself because you're practically in a castle when you're studying there, and you have access to Duke Gardens right beside it. And I spent an entire Saturday in Duke Gardens and still didn't see the entire area. And you had these music festivals in the gardens, and we had those every Wednesday night, and it had different genres of music every night that were amazing. We had little dances, once at the midway point between the month and then once at the very end point of the month, so we could kind of de-stress a little bit. I did get to leave one Saturday and go to the North Carolina Governor's School reunion, which was really amazing to see all my old friends, some of which I hadn't seen in a year, and then came back that night to go to a Durham Bulls game, so that was fun. And my favorite experience when it comes to the classes and the student body itself was that we all went on a trip to Washington, D.C., and I love D.C., and even though I've been there before, this experience was completely different because one of my really good friends, Tamara, she's the one by the American flag, she is from Brazil, and she studied all these landmarks in her U.S. history class. And to be with her and share with her her excitement of being in our nation's capital for the very first time was an incredible experience. And then overall, probably the most wonderful and humbling and inspiring parts of this entire summer was that on one day I was able to leave campus, and the pastor out at Queen Street United Methodist Church, Alan Bingham, set this up for me. I got to meet this wonderful lady, Lucy Lincoln, and she and her husband, C. Eric Lincoln, were very active in the civil rights movement of the 1960s, and Lucy Lincoln is still very active. And I got to go into her home and have lunch with her and hear her stories, her personal stories, where she and her husband studied alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and just to hear her speak of her experience, knowing them on a personal level, and just use the word, Martin just casually instead of referring to him by his full name and speaking to him like he was a friend of hers was so amazing to see history come alive like that. And I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting students to come and speak. Duke University this summer was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It was a learning experience in the classroom and out of the classroom, being able to meet and ask questions to people from all different parts of the world who are from all different types of cultures and belief systems. And it was a mind-opening experience and definitely broadened my horizons. And thank you for supporting students and having them come out and showing your care, because it really does make a difference for us. So thank you.
Any questions for Holly?
I guess we know where you're applying next year. Okay.
Thank you.
They'd be lucky to have you. All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. The next item is the ILCPS update. Mr. Williams?
Yes. Two of our staff members, Ms. Julie Rouse and Ms. Melissa Lynch, both digital learning specialists on our DLS team, attended Apple Academy recently in Cupertino, California, actually on October 5th through the 9th, 2015. And the goal there was to become Apple Foundation trainers and to receive this deep, intensive training so that they can come back and become certified and come back and train our staff members. So they are with us tonight to tell us about the trip to Cupertino, the training that they engaged in, and where we go now, and the what now of it. So Mrs. Rouse and Mrs. Lynch, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Julie Rouse. I am from Pink Hill Elementary.
And I'm Melissa Lynch. I'm from Wallsdale Elementary.
Okay, just to give you a little bit of background, because I'm not sure how familiar you are with Apple Foundation's Training Academy, it's designed to sustain basic Apple technology skills in education organizations that are 1 or more years past a large Apple implementation. It's a week-long academy, and it's a program delivered in Cupertino, California. Every session models best professional development practices, and it's all in a curricular context. And this is our group. There were 22 others from all across the United States, and I just have to say that we came back from what was the most rewarding professional development that I have ever been to. We spent 5 incredible days learning, teaching, sharing, collaborating, and stretching our boundaries for the sake of education. The wealth of resources, connections, and ideas was simply astonishing. Perhaps the biggest takeaway for me especially is the relationships that we made with other educators who think in an innovative way. Through this experience, we have created our own professional learning community, which allows us to network with 22 others from across the country. Our Apple Foundation's Trainer Academy class was made up of individuals from public K-12 districts, private schools, and higher education institutions across the United States. The focus of the program was on enhancing our readiness to lead professional development when we get back to our district. And here is a list of the 11 foundation courses that we were trained in during that week-long academy, and we are now certified to teach educators within our county on all of these that you see up on the screen.
And as Julie stated, it was a very intense week of learning, and I'll have to say, when we boarded the plane on Sunday, we were both very intimidated also, because we did not know what to expect when we arrived in California. We knew we were well prepared within our district, but we also were a little bit nervous about our company there in California. But I can tell you that what stood out the most to me, and I think Julie would agree, is that although we had 5 days of intense learning and content knowledge that we had to build, we spent the entire first day building a culture of learning. And it was just amazing to me that at first I thought, oh my goodness, you know, it's a little bit fluffy, as we'd like to say in the elementary world, a little bit of fluff makes you feel good. But there was so much purpose behind this, and I really think that it's one of the largest takeaways for us here that we can bring back to Lenoir County. The culture of learning that we experienced over the 5 days that we were there focused around perspectives and making sure that we include everyone's perspective when we're making decisions or when we're teaching a class of adults or students. A question was asked, what do you do when you don't see the big picture? And the answer was that you involve everyone because everyone's perspective counts. And I can say I think that Lenoir County is doing a great job with this within our one-to-one because we truly do listen to and seek input from our community and from our students, from our teachers and our digital learning specialists and coordinators, our administrators, and our school board. So I do feel that we know the importance of perspective. 2 large pieces of the culture building that Julie and I experienced, and we definitely want to take back with our training of our teachers here in Lenoir County, is being able to celebrate a risk. We now know, and we've known before, we just maybe didn't admit it, but we now know that most learning comes from making a mistake. It's when you allow yourself to make those mistakes that you become able to learn from them. So taking a risk and nudging successes, celebrating small accomplishments along the way, is very important in building this culture. It was huge for us because, like I said, we were a little intimidated to start the week. But as soon as day 1 was over, we realized that now we were not only among people who had the same goal as us in the week, but we also were supported and felt like we were able to break through some of maybe our boundaries to really take in the important content of the week. I will also say that the last piece of the culture building that stood out was the yes and idea. A lot of times when we are discussing ideas or when we are faced with challenges, we'll use that word but a lot. The important thing that we took away from that week was you have to eliminate the buts and you have to celebrate the yes and, because everyone's perspective is important. It keeps a positive attitude and it makes sure that everyone's voice can be heard even when difficult decisions have to be made. Homework was also included in this 5-day intensive training that we had a part of, but I also think this was important in building the culture because it taught us to be independent in our thinking. You know, our best teachers and our best students understand the importance of researching and reading and finding out answers, seeking answers yourself instead of asking for answers. But again, the way that the training was set up was it forced you to, as they call it, channel your inner Sherlock, to become masters of your own learning. This was the belief statement that we followed the entire week, and I think when you read this that you can see where ILCPS falls directly in line with the Apple belief statement of the week for Apple Academy. Ongoing process is learning, taking risks, using prior knowledge, personal interest, and unique needs of each learner. And again, that's what we're striving to do every day with our one-to-one iPad initiative, is to really take into account the individual learning and the personalized piece that's important for students. So day 2, 3, and 4, we got down to business, and we got down to business fast. We did have 11 course guides that we were responsible for knowing and for being able to come back and deliver to our teachers here in Lenoir County. And it was very interesting the way that the content was delivered. It was delivered by us. We did have good modeling given to us during the week, but we really were supported and guided through different modes of training. It was very interesting. I think one of the large pieces, or the comment that always was said, was that we have your back. We have your back. There's no room for failure because we have your back. And I think that's important for our teachers to know. There's a lot to learn when it comes to transitioning into the digital learning environment, and I think that you can easily become overwhelmed or scared or anxious about the way students are learning these days. But I think that it's important for our teachers to understand that taking the risks and listening to the students is the way that they're going to get the most growth. And that's what we hope to do when we come back and teach the students here in Lenoir County. So day 5 came, and it was time for the big test. We had to pass our final assessment before we actually were considered certified trainers. We're happy to say that we did so we successfully completed our task. Again, it was one of those pieces we were very anxious about going, but as day 2, day 3 got there, we knew we had it, because again, the culture had been built, and there was no room for failure. We were all going to succeed. We start together, and we end together.
Okay, this is our future plans. This is what we're going to do now that we're back. The first plan of action is we are going to send out a needs assessment survey to all of our teachers. We want to know, what do you need and what do you want from us? The list of Apple Foundation courses, which ones do we need the most? And that's where we're going to start, our priority. The developing a redelivery plan. We plan to redeliver the training on the work days, professional development days. Hopefully we can have some subs come in on some days. Summer Institute is also an option for us to redeliver these foundations courses. We are also interested in the Apple Vanguard program. This is something that is new to us, and we did not hear about it until we were in California. So we were, our ears perked up when they were talking about this. But there's 2 parts to the Vanguard program. There's a Vanguard member and Vanguard coach. Now, to be a Vanguard member, you have to do that first before you can become a coach. They have to go through 24 hours of training, either on the MacBook or the iPad, which is delivered by us. And after that, then they can become a coach. To be a coach, they have to assist us for 12 hours and turn in a project to us, and then they can be considered a coach and they can mentor other teachers. And another goal that we have in mind is the Apple Distinguished Educators, Schools, and Districts, which we are getting more information on that. That's still new to us as well, but it is a goal that I think the ILCPS can reach.
I think too, piggybacking on what Julie said about the Vanguard program, we're so fortunate to have digital learning specialists in each of our schools, and we really have served in a role as a Vanguard coach and didn't even know it. I think before we went to training, as we learned more about it, we thought, wow, we are really a step ahead of everyone we've met at Apple Academy, because we have the people in place, which is a huge component to a one-to-one initiative. But we are excited about building the capacity of not just our digital learning specialists, but also the teachers that are in the building that are using it daily and doing such a beautiful job. Those teachers need to also be leaders within our schools and be able to train and develop professionally the teachers that they're interacting with. So the Vanguard program, I think, can reach far out past even our digital learning team, which we would like to target first.
Do you have any questions?
Can we take the class?
Sure, yes, absolutely take a class.
We do.
Love that.
There you go. You want the iTunes class, right?
That works.
I saw that was on there.
Could you by any chance, with the people you're associated with, could you tell at what point or what step or level that we were compared to what these other people were doing?
Absolutely. I think that we felt like to just be a year and a half into the process that we were far ahead of most of the people we came in contact with. It was very interesting because we were able to see the different ways that each district has decided to use their people. And a lot of districts have just a few people who serve several schools, which I'm sure was effective for them, but when they heard about the digital learning specialist embedded in a school that was able to train teachers and work with students on a daily basis, I think we had more of an audience than we felt like we could get from them. So that was exciting to us. And I will say, when we first got there, we walked in, we had to sign our name. You know, we were didn't know what we were getting into, but we signed our name, and a gentleman from Apple said, "Oh, you're from Lenore." Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So I do feel like when we communicate with other people, we felt like we were right in line with where we needed to be. I will say the Vanguard program and training and building that capacity within our own group of teachers is, I think, an important next step. That was a step that some people had already moved towards that we haven't, because we don't have foundation trainers until now within our district.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next item is the low performing district school improvement plans. Ms. Dunn.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. It's a long day. He's right behind you. That's the next step.
He said it crashed, so I
Should be what we just said. Yeah, just
Yeah, it's like 30.
It's just the first reading.
All right. Good evening again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Again, my name is Keisha Dunn, and I am the Executive Director of Instructional Services for Lenore County Public Schools. And my purpose tonight is to discuss with you some changes that have recently occurred. The North Carolina State legislators recently made changes in defining low-performing schools. And as a result of these changes, we have several schools that have been identified as low-performing. And in addition to that, our LEA has also been identified as a low-performing district. And the purpose of our presentation tonight is to provide you with information about the process, as well as the requirements that are identified in the new law regarding the next steps that we as a district need to take, as well as our lowest performing schools as identified under the new law. Education of the Low Performing Schools, GS General Statute 115C-105.37 identifies low performing schools as schools that received a performance grade of D or F and a school growth score of met expected growth or not met expected growth. We have 10 Lenoir County schools that meet this designation. They are Catania Savannah K-8 School, Frank Middle School, Kinston High, LaGrange Elementary School, Northeast Elementary School, North Lenoir High School, Northwest Elementary School, Rochelle Middle School, Southeast Elementary School, and Woodington Middle Schools. In addition, a new addition to GS 115-105.37 includes the local educational agency, LEAs. And any LEA that had over 50% of schools in the district identified as low performing would be designated as a low performing district. 10 out of our 17 schools in our LEA has been identified as low performing, and therefore Lenoir County Public Schools as an LEA has also been identified as a low performing district. I would like to share with you the low performing schools requirements as well as the low performing district requirements. As I mentioned earlier, there have been some new requirements added to low performing schools as well as low performing districts. One of those requirements is that all low performing schools must have a school improvement plan that focuses on improving both school performance as well as the growth. School improvement plans for low performing schools must be presented to our local Board of Education for initial consideration, and those were presented to you through board docs. These plans must be posted for feedback before the board votes to approve the documents. The local board then we must submit the final plans for approval to the State Board of Education within 5 days after your approval. At that point, DPI will evaluate our plans, and then they will get them back to us with suggestions if they have any, and then our final plans will be posted on our district website. I'd like to share with you our district goals. One of our district goals, goal number 1, is that all of our low-performing schools in Lenoir County Public Schools will exceed growth and or achieve an overall performance composite of at least 55% proficiency by the end of the 2015-16 school year. The 55% proficiency is the state's percent. The strategy that we will use to achieve this, to reach our goal, all schools will implement formative assessments on a regular basis to measure growth and student understanding, resulting in reteaching and increased learning. The action steps that we'll take towards this goal. We will collect and evaluate formative assessment data from all low-performing schools. We will also assist administrators with developing a plan of action for noncompliance and or deficits in student achievement. And we will also assist administrators and teachers with implementing ILCPS to differentiate instruction for students. The district goals for improvement. All low-performing schools in our district will exceed, again, the growth of 55%. We also will begin the development of revised instructional blueprints that are completely aligned to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study by the end of 2015-16 school year. And During the 2015-16 school year, we will build systems to monitor and provide instructional support for all of our schools. And I think one of my slides got out of order. This should have come next. No, I do apologize for that. Let me go back to that one. Now that you've seen all of our goals. Again, this is our first goal, and we want all of our schools to exceed growth and meet the 55% proficiency. And as I shared earlier, we are going to make sure that we implement the formative assessments on a regular basis to measure growth and student understanding. And part of that, we will collect and evaluate the formative assessment data. We'll go in, we'll help the schools take a look at their data, and then come up with a plan for increasing their achievement. We will also assist administrators with developing a plan of action for noncompliance. And what does that mean? By noncompliance, we just simply mean if there's something that's in their plan that they expect to be implemented and it has not, then we are going to help them prepare a plan of action to make it happen. And also, we're going to assist administrators and teachers with the implementing of ILCPS to differentiate instruction for students. And as you just heard from Julie and Melissa, I think we're well on our way to doing that. Strategy number 2 for District Goal 1. All of our EC students will have regular formative assessments to ensure proper instructional placement using research-based targeted programs. Our EC population, our students, that subgroup, is one of the major areas where we are struggling with meeting expected growth. So that is why that is a strategy for us this year. The action steps toward this goal, we're going to do fidelity checks. And that simply means that we will go in, the EC department has an instructional team who goes in on a regular basis to check to see if teachers are on the lessons that they're supposed to be on, if as many lessons have been completed as they're supposed to have, and also coaching sessions on each newly implemented program several times a year. The EC department this year has done a great job of looking at different instructional programs for the EC students. We have, as our babies, we have varying needs of students, and so in order to meet their needs, the EC department looked at various programs. And those programs will require coaching and also ongoing PD to make sure that they're being implemented properly, as well as to make sure that our students are getting the services that they need from that program. Also, the EC department, they schedule regular data meetings. And what that simply means is that they meet with their teachers on a frequent basis. Their instructional team, they go in, they look at their data notebooks, again, to make sure that all the lessons have been covered, to make sure that they're on schedule with their program to maintain a fidelity. Because you can have the best programs in the world, but if you're not maintaining fidelity with those programs, then they will not do what they are intended to do for students. In our strategy 3 for goal number 1, we will provide targeted support and professional development for administrators. And what does this look like? We will train administrators with the use of unpacking documents and instructional blueprints and ILCPS program. And we talked about it a little bit earlier last month. We have received, we've received quotes, for lack of a better word, from professionals around our region who will help us create blueprints or instructional guides. As a part of that action, we're going to also provide coaching and monitoring of teacher effectiveness and leading effective PLCs. We're going to also assist administrators with understanding of the central components of a lesson plan and differentiating through the one-to-one initiative. The essential components of a lesson plan, here what we mean is that there are some components that we think are important in any lesson plan. It's not necessarily a template, but it's just there's some components that we feel are important in any lesson plan for it to be effective. Our second goal is that Lenore County Public Schools will begin the development of the revised instructional blueprints that I just mentioned that are completely aligned to the standard course of study by the end of the 2015-2016 school year. Again, we are going to contract with consultants to develop those instructional blueprints. We have received quotes for their services, and now we're just waiting to sit down and take a look at those to see which will meet our needs. And then finally, the blueprints will be created. The second part of that strategy is that the professional development provided on the newly instructional blueprints will be ongoing. The consultants who have provided us with these quotes for creating our blueprints, they have also committed to providing ongoing professional development with the implementation. And the next action step for Goal 2 is that, again, we're going to continue with the PD for administrators. We're going to also select lead teachers in central services on interpreting and implementing the newly revised instructional blueprints. We don't want to just hand these documents to our teachers. We want to make sure that they understand how they're supposed to be used. And we also want to make sure that our administrators also understand how they're supposed to be used. So as they're doing their observations and doing their walkthroughs, they know exactly what it is that the teachers are supposed to be implementing.
I'm sorry. Is there, and listen to all this, is there any way that we are going to test to ensure that the kids, you know, I've heard everything, what the instructions and all that's going to do. Do we have a way that we're going to see if the kids are really getting what they're supposed to be getting? You know, I hear a lot, but...
Yes. What we plan to do, Mr. Nobles, is that we are going to implement formative assessments on a bi-weekly basis. In our research, we've determined that in order to determine if those instructional guides are effective, the district will have to create formative assessments that are common for all of our schools. And we will score them at this level, and then the data will be given back to the administrators. They will meet as a team, and they will talk about their data, and then form a plan for moving forward.
Okay.
So we're going to create the test at the district level.
So if this doesn't get where we need to be, then you're saying we're going to reevaluate it and then go back and look at something else or whatever?
Well, no, we won't go back and look at additional plans, because I'm hoping that we'll get that right the first time.
Okay.
What I mean by that, when the district creates the test, the bi-weekly test, and the students take the test and we score it, we'll look at the data to see how well the students are doing on the objectives that were tested. And that way, the principals and the teachers will have to have a determination. They will have the information they need to make a determination as to what they need to go back and reteach, what they've done well, what they've covered well, where the students are successful, and areas that they may need to just focus on a little bit more. So the instructional plans are going to be a guide, helping us make sure that we cover everything we're supposed to cover within a school year. And as we go along, we are going to assess periodically, every 2 weeks, that's our goal, to create district-wide assessments to be administered every 2 weeks on the instructional blueprints. They're really going to be pacing guides where we're going to say, okay, in this amount of time, we're hoping that you will be able to cover this information. Then we're going to test that, see how they're doing. Then you'll take your data, go back, and make any instructional changes that you need to make for improvement.
And this is different than what we were doing, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, because before we were not completing formative assessments as a district every 2 weeks. I mean, that's really, that's a strong goal that we think is important to have. Before we were doing them in January, and then we did them again in March. We just know that in everything that we've researched, we are gonna have to evaluate how they're doing more often in order to make a determination what we need to do to change our instructional strategies.
So along with the district goals of the testing every 2 weeks, then each school has their own goals on what they're gonna do in their school improvement plans.
What we attempted to do, Mr. Smith, each school, they do have their own goals. We met with each school for 2 days, October 19th and 20th, for about an hour and a half. And each school was able to come in and present their improvement plan. We looked at their improvement plan, we listened to their presentation, and then we also, as an instructional services team, we made suggestions for where we thought some areas may need to be tightened. And we made sure that our goals very closely aligned with theirs. It may not be verbatim what they have, but I think if you look at the overarching, the big idea, that we're covering exactly what they said that they're going to do. Many of our plans did mention formative assessments, bi-weekly assessments. So I think that we've covered as a district. I think we've matched what they're doing holistically. We're not doing everything that they're saying that they're doing as a school, but in order to meet the needs of all the schools in our district that are identified as overperforming, I think our goals do pretty much align with theirs.
I'll just listen to it every 2 weeks. It just seems really ambitious.
It does, and we did say that. We did say that it was an ambitious goal. But I think we need to start out ambitious, and then if we see we need to back up, we will. But we just feel as though in order to make sure that those instructional blueprints are being effective, that we really need to monitor the data. And I'm not saying that we won't have to change it, because this is a living, breathing document. We can change this every other week, every other day. And that's what's really good about an improvement plan. It's not set in stone. And I won't sit here and tell you that we probably, I'm sure, 99% sure, that we will have to go back and make some adjustments. But that's okay. But we want to start out strong, and if we need to back up and revise, then we will. This is not set in stone.
I was just looking at earlier, one of the schools had I think a weekly assessment, formative assessment, called Friday 5, Friday something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Friday 5 that they'll be doing to test as well. So I guess when I'm listening, I just don't want the kids to. I mean, are we going to be testing them too much? I guess that's what I'm looking at. And I was listening to what in the federal government, what they were saying about education and too much testing with. I mean, is this testing them too much? I don't know.
That's true, and you're right. We talked about that as well, but I think as a district, the consensus of our instructional effectiveness team was that in order for us to monitor, to really have an understanding, a true picture of what's taking place with instruction, we have to have some sort of assessment that is consistent district-wide to monitor instruction. That's the only way we're going to know. One of the strongest ways we're going to know if the blueprints are effective. If what we have trained our teachers on and what we're implementing, if it's really having the impact that we desire.
Okay.
We talked about the over-testing extensively, but in order to monitor as a district, in order for us to be able to say with any certainty at all how well things are going, we're going to have some district-wide assessments.
Can I ask this question? How long would it take a student to complete a formative assessment like you're contemplating?
Well, a formative assessment is designed to be very short.
Okay.
It could be From a district standpoint, we could be focusing on 2 objectives and we might have 20 questions, we might have 10. From a school standpoint, from teacher to teacher, it may be something as quick as 5 minutes. If a teacher is assessing her students on their ability to identify the main idea, she may have the school checklist where she just asks the student a question, and if they get the question right, check. It might take her 5 minutes.
Okay. What's the worst case?
Formative is supposed to be short.
Sure.
It's supposed to be short. And, you know, if we have set this ambitious task of every 2 weeks, we don't want to burn out our teachers, and we certainly don't want to burn out our students. So it will have to be a very short assessment. We haven't talked about specifics as far as the number of questions, but I can't imagine it being more than 10 to be quick.
So it's not going to take up a whole lot of our teachers' time.
It shouldn't.
The classroom time.
It shouldn't. And if we see that it does, because we're going to certainly ask for their feedback, then we will be able to go back and modify this plan. That's the good thing, again, about this improvement plan, is that it's not set in stone.
Well, I just think we need to be conscious of that issue of how much time our teachers spend assessing and not teaching.
Absolutely. And we did, as we were talking about this, we did talk about that. We did consider that. Also, in action steps, we would develop a common walkthrough instrument for school-based administrators and district-level personnel. And what that simply means is that we want to make sure that we have a common understanding in our district what we're looking for regarding good instruction. And so if we all have the same walkthrough instrument that we're looking at when central office goes in, when central services personnel goes in to be a support, we're not using one instrument and principals using something else. We're all going to be using the same instrument, trained with it and understanding what we're looking for with good instruction. And again, we have the fidelity checks will be completed through the analysis of their lesson plans and utilizing the walkthrough documents. And what we mean by analysis of their lesson plans, we're just simply looking to see if in their plans they are using the blueprints, because that is what's going to be their guide for instruction. Okay, our district goal 3. During the 2015-16 school year, our district will build systems to monitor and provide instructional support. We've talked about this extensively, and we firmly believe that our role as central services is to support our schools. And so with that being said, one of our strategies will be that we will analyze all available data and conduct monthly formative meetings with each administrator in the local performing schools to monitor their benchmark results. And these are some of the names of the assessments that they do. The DIBELS and TRC is a state mandated assessment. We're going to be looking for discipline records, their attendance records, and their observation progress. And what this will really look like is that we will meet with schools. Every other month, we will have a schedule, and our team will go in and we will have a designated time that we meet with the principals, and then we just visit classrooms. Coming back together, debriefing on what we saw, addressing any questions or concerns the principal might have, any needs that they may have. And also, a part of our action steps, again, is to create that district level data team that regularly monitors this information that you see here. As a district, we have to know what's going on with instruction. And unfortunately, the only way we're going to know, one of the main ways that we know, is through assessments, whether it's formative, whether it's summative. And not just testing, looking at their discipline records, looking at their attendance records. It's not all about testing. There are lots of things that impact a school's performance. Our second strategy, again, we would schedule the district level teams that will be assigned to the local performing schools, we would conduct those on-site monitoring visits. And during those visits, we might look at their lesson plans. We might just sit in on an observation. We may sit in on a PLC meeting. We may even attend a school improvement team meeting. There are many things that we can do as central services to serve our schools. And the action step again for that goal is those monthly meetings. We just think it's important. You know, we have to be in the schools. We have to have those conversations, we think, in order to be effective, in order to truly help our principals and our teachers move forward with improvement. Also, we think that it's important, and DPI is also a proponent and advocating for this, that we're going to collaborate with other successful districts. Because we do have some districts that are close by that are doing good things. I don't think any of us are doing everything well, but there are some districts that are doing some things well that we feel as though we can really learn from them. And so we want to collaborate with these school districts. What we're going to do is look at data from the surrounding districts to determine what districts are successful with similar populations that we have. And then we've organized collaborative visits. We actually have one scheduled Friday with Craven County. 4 of us are going to go and visit their central office staff because they are doing some of the very same things that we want to do with instructional blueprints. And again, DPI is promoting this type of action because we learn from each other. And so we really didn't know they were promoting that before we did it, but it's good to know that this is what they are also encouraging. They don't have all the answers either, so that's why they're encouraging us to work together. Also, we want to utilize our master teachers. We have an awesome group of teachers here in Lenoir County Public Schools. We have an awesome, awesome group of teachers. And so what we want to do is that we want to organize support teams of instructional, school level, and district level staff to visit schools within our district to provide and receive instructional support and coaching. So what does that look like? We will look for the master teachers within our district, those teachers who have proven success. We would organize team visits to our local performing schools for modeling and coaching, or the teachers from those schools could go to, it wouldn't always be one way of coaching. We could visit, and then we could, the master teachers could leave their schools to visit. Our schools that need the coaching, they could leave their classrooms to go visit these teachers at their schools. The point is to build that collaboration among the master teachers to help those teachers who may be new and struggling with some instructional strategies and approaches. Also a part of that is that using the debriefing notes from the visits that they have each other to aid in the development of our plan for improvement. And we want to schedule visits of mentoring and coaching for our beginning teachers. I was speaking with Mrs. Haley Grove, who is our beginning teacher coordinator, and Lenoir County Public Schools has about 46% of our teachers are beginning teachers or lateral entry teachers, versus 3 years ago we were looking at 8%. So, we have a lot of teachers who are new, and being new, not knowing where to find what we need to teach, just not knowing what we don't know. So we know that we have enough master teachers in our district that can help with building the capacity of these new teachers.
You say 46%?
Beginning teachers, and that includes lateral entry. But beginning teachers are good teachers as well. And just like beginning teachers, we have seasoned teachers that might need some support in different areas. But what we want to do, we want to make sure that we're giving all of our teachers what they need, whether they're beginning teachers or whether they're seasoned teachers. We want to make sure that we're providing the support and the coaching services that they need. And teachers trust each other. And I think if we build that collaborative relationship, that will be that will go a long way towards building our capacity and increasing our student achievement. Also, I would like to add that DPI required that we use a template that was provided by them. And so the plans that you have are the templates. They were completed on the templates required by DPI. And they don't give you a lot of room to add a lot of stuff. They want you to get right to the point. And so that's why you see that. And then it's also the same template that we were required to use as a district. If you have questions about any particular school's plan, I think the principals are here tonight, and they would be able to answer your questions about their specific school. And if you have questions about the district plan, I'll be happy to try and answer those questions for you.
Questions for Ms. King?
Just say one thing, I commend you and your staff for having to put this together. You didn't have the fluff like the other ones that come before you. You know, you all have the hard job of trying to, and looking at what the legislators have, I'm gonna call it pressure. Because legislators have put pressure on the districts now to do these things that they set up. And I don't bite my tongue much, purposely to make it look like all the schools are low performing. I mean, and you hear me say every meeting when we talk about this, I have a problem with thinking that we got 10 schools that, well, put it this way. When you say you met growth, but then you give us a D or an F.
Absolutely.
I really have a problem with that. I still have a problem. I think that they're doing what they want to do is in making public schools look bad, but you all have a hard job ahead of you all because of what they've done, and you don't have any choice. It's a mandate that you got to do. But
and we were under a very, very tight deadline. The Instructional Services Department sat in on a webinar October 5th that outlined everything that we needed to do. October 7th or 8th, I think we were creating the documents for our principals. We had the meeting 2 days later with them. They had a week to get their plans. And then October 19th and 20th, we were all day long reviewing plans, giving feedback, and even we have just been nose to nose with this process for about 2 weeks nonstop. Everything else in our work was put to a halt. And we did this together as an instructional services team and looking at our administrators, their plans, making sure that we were aligned. We didn't want them have one thing and then we had something else.
I mean, I commend your staff for that because I do know it was a short window that DPI gave you all and the schools in order to have those plans in. And what question is, what does the designation of a low performing district say? What does that really say? I mean, I know what the criteria, I know what it was.
What it means is that over 50% of our schools in our LEA were identified as low performing, and that put us as a district as being designated as a low performing district. We had 10 out of 17 schools. I think if we had 8 out of 17, I don't think we would have. But
well, let me get the heat off you and ask the superintendent, because so when we have people come to us and they want to move to the district or whatever, and they say, well, you're a low performing district, what do we tell them?
Well, I think we should be honest and kind of tell them that we're there, but we're not going to stay there, and that we have a lot of plans, and point out a lot of the great things that we are doing for kids. We saw great examples tonight of what our kids do. So I think there are ways to combat what has been done to us in terms of making us look bad, along with a lot of other districts. When I talk to other superintendents, the Craven County superintendent swears he's going to have bumper stickers made that says, "I love my D school."
I don't think we want that.
Which I think is one approach to say that I have a great school. It may have this designation, but what we're doing for kids is still pretty awesome inside that. We just need to do better at playing the game of the testing and get our kids to show what they can do on the state test.
So in other
and
words,
that's what we're doing. But
use
we're
those
still doing
positive
great
things. Use the positive things that we're doing to mitigate the.
Yeah, absolutely,
stuff.
and they're there. I mean, there's no question that we have great things we're doing out there. We are gearing up, like everybody else and every other superintendent I talk to learn how to play this game better and to get the level grades that we want for our schools. And we can do that, but it doesn't mean that we're not educating our kids and we're not doing great things, and we don't have a lot of things to celebrate, a lot of things to point out to people that would want to become a part of this county and this district.
So are the EC scores still tabulated in with the regular scores when it goes to your grades?
Yes, sir, it's one of our schools.
But see, then that's, I don't know. I mean, because if you have a school that has a higher population of EC and there's no, I guess Mr. Nobles, I'll use one of your terms, handicap. You know, golf, we play handicap. There's no handicap or accommodation, I guess would be the educational term. So, I mean, are there any accommodation? There's nothing that
Oh, absolutely.
that you get, I mean, not for the students, but I mean for the schools that have the larger percentage of EC kids. So quite naturally, their grade is not going to be, their scores are not going to be what the other schools were that don't have it. So is there something to mitigate that?
Well, what I would say is that Mrs. Roach, who is our EC director, she is just very, very methodical, for lack of a better word, in making sure that the ratio of students is proportionate with the number of teachers that those schools have. So the schools, you know, they do have the teachers that they need to support those babies. Also, again, I'm just so impressed with what they're doing this year and looking for the best instructional programs to meet the needs of those kids. We could have 5 different instructional programs at a school, but they were chosen based on the data, based on those students' IEPs, based on how they progressed. So she knows her students, her instructional teams, they know those students, and they know these programs, and I think that is going to really, really go a long way towards raising better achievement for those children. I really do. And it can be done. And another great thing about this is that I want you to know that we can come out of this in 1 year. We're not stuck here. We can come out of this in 1 year, and all of these schools here that you see, they're doing great, great things. This is just not something we expected. And it's not.
Ms. Dunn, I gotta ask the question. I get a little, when we talk about growth and when we talk about meeting the grade like everybody else, when you have growth, that they talk about, you know, a school has grown this much. You have that in the first, second, kindergarten, first, second grade. They come in, when kids come in, they come in below standard. I guess that would be. Now, when a kid gets after the first grade or the second grade and the kid is showing growth, at what point, I guess my question that a person has asked me, at what point does a kid ever catch up?
Yes, they do, but Mr. Nobles, research has shown sometimes that, you know, we do have babies who come in who don't have that early learning experience that they need.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, it's our job not to make excuses and not to complain about it. You know, we have them 6.5 hours a day. We teach them from bill to bill, and we do our best to catch them up. Research shows that sometimes when a child does get behind, for every 1 year, it might take 2 or 3 years to catch up. But that's not a norm. You know, you have that, but you don't have that a lot. And so what I would say is that we need to exceed growth. That's what we want to do. We want, as you can see, it's no longer going to, the state is not going to just accept meeting growth. We're going to have to focus on exceeding growth. And I think that's what our teachers have done all along anyway. But
No, so I guess where I have problems with the understanding is if you show growth from 1st to the 5th grade, and then you get into middle school and you're still behind, or at one point with that kid, are we saying that person never catches up, or have we got to show growth every year?
we need to show growth every year. We need them to exceed their growth every year. It's no longer, you know, we want them to meet growth, but we really want them to exceed, because exceeding is the only way we're gonna cut this deficit. We want them to grow. We don't ever want to say they're to a place where they don't continue to grow. We want them to continue to grow. They have to continue to grow.
But shouldn't they be competing with everybody at some point? When do they compete? They don't need to grow anymore. They need to be just competing on an even level with everybody else. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Mr. Nobles, are you asking about EC children in particular? Or are you asking about all children?
No, I'm asking about our kids in general. You know, when they come, when a kid comes into the school, they come in, I realize that some kids come in behind.
Are you saying when do they get on grade level?
That kid should be caught up with the rest of the kids?
So are you saying at what point do they get on grade level instead
Right,
of being
on
on the
grade
grade level? I think that's what he's more asking.
Well,
Not
I'm going to have to answer that question by saying it will depend on the child. It's from child to child. We want them all to be on grade level by the time they're promoted to the next grade.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't happen, but the goal is for them to move up, being on grade level or above.
So
That's our goal.
So when they get promoted, are we? And I hate to sound like I'm going against what we're preaching, but I'm trying to get some understanding is at what point do we say that kid is on grade level and should be accomplishing the same thing that all the other kids are accomplishing?
Every year. I mean, they need to be on grade, we want them on grade level every year. When they're promoted, we want all children to be on grade level. And continue to remain on grade level from year to year.
anything student thing.
Or they'll never catch up.
Huh?
Or they'll never catch up.
That's what I'm saying. So we're talking about showing growth every year, even when they get past elementary school, and I guess that's why I'm having problems seeing this.
Mr. Nobles, I think, so the standard procedure was you would want a year's growth for any child. If you come in at the kindergarten level and if you're at where you would want to be, if the child comes in, he would be at beginning kindergartner level. You would want the growth rate for that child to be 1 year, so that by the time he takes his assessments at the end of kindergarten, if we were to assume there was assessments, he would be at the end of kindergarten. So the growth standards for any given school that are set for a school or by the district are based on what level, where are those that student body as a whole, where are they currently performing at on their individual level, and how much is considered an appropriate level of growth for those students. It may be a year's growth, it might be maybe more than a year's growth. It's going to depend on what, DPI provides some guidance to that. Maybe I can provide. So So, again, we want to increase their growth by more than 1 year if you have a student body that's more, not where we want them to be. But growth is measured by DPI, not necessarily based on what's happening year to year. It's like, we need you to make a little bit more growth. And so when you have a school that has a lower grade, part of that is determined because you may have met growth, but they're still below standard and where we want them to be. So you could meet growth, but still have a number of students who are performing below where we would want them to be. So you then get your low designation. I think part of the frustration, Mr. Smith, you were asking this before, I think they don't take into consideration your standards, any of the high-risk factors in any particular school. So the model that was approved by our legislature was adopted largely from a model that was put together in Florida. But the Florida model included contingencies that would change that based on the expected growth for the particular school, would be considering other high-risk factors such as the number of students who are on free and reduced school lunch, the number of students who come from other backgrounds, including EC, and none of that can be taken into consideration. So the scores in Lenoir County can be unnaturally lowered because you can't take into consideration the demographics of your community.
They took part of the Florida model that they wanted to take and left the other part out.
Very important part.
Best part, most important part, yeah. The demographic.
If I may, Ms. Dunn, the schools that are not on this list, are they participating at all in what you're doing here?
They are.
Because say they're just above the cut.
We're hoping to do the very same things district-wide for all the schools. They might not need as much support in all of those areas, but we will certainly, we're supporting everyone.
Okay.
But they just may need something different, a little less than, but yes, we've talked about that too, as an instructional effectiveness team. And the very conversation we had was, well, now, we can't forget about the other 7 schools. How are we, I think Becky Whitman was the one, our director of accountability, she's the one who's okay. Now, we can't forget our other 7 schools. What are we going to do to support them? So we've had that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Matt, can I ask a question? That one of your goals is to have an overall performance composite of at least 55% proficiency by next school year.
We want to be.
Where are we now?
It depends what.
Well, you said overall performance composite of at least 55% proficiency. I assume you know a score for now.
Yeah, every one of them are low
Each
now.
school has their own.
Right.
Okay.
I just read one.
So we want each school to reach that
But every school,
55%.
in order for them to get out of this, they've got to at least be a C or exceed expected growth.
Expected growth.
So if they get to be if they're a C, then they're 55%.
Okay.
Because they're on 15% scale.
So how far is a range? How far do most of our schools have to go to get to 55%?
Some of our schools have a long way to go to get to 55%.
Some not as far as others, but some.
But some of them don't have as far to go.
So that's just the standard that's established by the definition of a low-performing school. That's where you got that from.
Right, yeah, because that's a way out, is to get a C. The other way is to exceed growth. And to answer Mr. Mel's question a little bit about the growth piece, every year the children put, it's called NCEs, normal curve equivalents. They're kind of like percentiles. Not exactly the same because your percentiles kind of lump, but the normal curve equivalent goes exactly the same increments all the way across. And after the test is done, they go and they put every child in the state score on the grid. And if you were midway at the state is 50, and if you last year were at 42, and this year at 42, you made the year's worth of growth because you still maintained your position, but you didn't exceed, you're not catching up. So in order to catch up, you've got to do better than stay in your same position across the state from one year to the next. And in order for you to catch up, you've got to do that to keep exceeding. But the overall thing about grade levels, if they're a score level 3, then they're on grade level. So that's
I don't need to score 4.
test to see if they're there.
Couple questions, if I may.
Mr. Hill?
I'm going to make this statement, and I'm going to answer my own question, I guess. We are using technology in every aspect of the plan that we can, right? Whether it's from the teacher, the student, whatever. and our initiative.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I would hope so. Now, when you're talking about, Mr. Smith was talking about the testing, the formative assessment, because I know that was some concern about testing too much. Was that part of the template, that 2 weeks, or is that something that leeway you got?
No, the DPI did not give us any suggestions, it's just the template. They want to know what your goals are, what your strategies are going to be, and then what your action steps are going to be to meet those goals. And how are you going to monitor your progress?
Okay, so this is one of Lenore County's
Yes, this
strategies.
is one of the strategies that the instructional effectiveness team came up with. And again, I want to say that this is a living, breathing document, and I know that sounds like a cliche, but it actually is. We can change this at any time. If we start the 2-week formative assessment district-wide and we see that it's too much, then we will certainly go back and amend it as needed. Nothing is set in stone.
One thing I need to say is that what everyone here has in their mind with testing is really summative testing. Formative assessment is very, very different. It's almost a very natural part of teaching. So it's not as, it's not the requirement you think. They're not taking this big multiple choice test every 2 weeks. It's a teacher naturally assessing their students on what they've been doing in a formative way so they can make corrections and help that student and individualize the instruction. So it should be, if teachers do it right, which most of our teachers I'm sure will, it will look like part of their instruction, not like they're having a formal test session.
And if we do it at the district level, formative means quick. So we will not burden our children and teachers with a lot of testing.
Not that it really makes any difference, but by any chance, is there any way to determine where our schools would have been if the legislature hadn't changed the rules? I mean, we'd have hit 10 out of 17 low-performing schools if they hadn't changed the rules on us?
No, we would not.
I mean, I know no one really cares now, but you can't do anything about it. But
Yeah, there's no point in discussing that.
right. But we wouldn't have had 10 out of 17, would we?
And
I didn't think. I mean, I wouldn't.
When you say change the rules, what are you referring to?
change
You want
the
now?
test, change the standards for the test.
Yeah, change the
I know,
standard.
4 years ago, 3
Change the
years ago.
curriculum, change everything we had changed in the past 3 years. It's a totally different game.
Yeah, am I not correct in that 80% was the end of grade testing, 20% was the growth to determine that score?
Yeah, the letter grade.
And even in Florida, as Mrs. Waller alluded to, even in Florida,
50.
they didn't use that ratio, that percentage.
And they allowed for the other factors.
Right, they allow for all the other risks that are involved.
This is the harshest school grading policy that I know of in the nation.
And they made an attempt to try to change it this year in the legislature, and they wouldn't change anything,
I
right?
didn't even consider it.
And I'll go right back on what Mr. Smith said. This is a blatant attempt to make public education look bad.
And it hits districts like ours especially hard.
And I would like to add too that when we start, this is just a draft, a preliminary draft for you to consider, but now we're going to start actually the hard work of putting this together. What does this look like? And we will have school administrators at the table with us because they have to implement this. And so now the work begins putting this together. How is this going to look?
So we have to approve this next meeting.
When do you believe this will come back in for final
That's what I
approval?
was asking you.
Well, you have 30 days to look at it, and then after you make your decision as to whether or not you approve what we have presented tonight, or you want to make some changes.
So you're anticipating we'll look at this next month and make a decision?
You need to look at it next month.
Yeah.
You need to approve something by the next board meeting.
Just so we're clear on that.
So if there's not as much wiggle room in the template they gave you,
There's no wiggle room in the template.
okay.
We have some things
So-
in general we need to do too.
We have been posted on the website for public review, comment, feedback.
Yeah. Well, I saw there was feedback required. I just didn't know how long.
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days.
And then you'll have 5 after that.
5 after that to get it to upload it.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I made a suggestion earlier because we can already see how lengthy this process can be. But I do have several notes on some of those plans as they were presented, but I don't think this is the time to get into them.
Is Dibble still state mandated? Take that out, might cut some time back.
Ms. Dunn, thank you for all the work you've done. We know it has been a lot on your part.
It's our whole special services department. They have been phenomenal. So, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Next item is Ms. Davis with the financial report.
It's exciting.
We haven't gotten to action portion.
Good evening. The financial report reflects the year-to-date activity by providing revenue and expenditure information as to all the sources of funds received and expended by fund and for the purpose as of October 31st, 2015. May I answer any questions?
You had a real good slide. I think they're just ready to go.
It's a lot of reading.
Yeah, that's good, right?
All right, any questions for Ms. Davis?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item is about 40 new policy revisions.
I was planning to read and discuss all of these, but maybe
The
we'll just take
legislature's
a
been
shorter
busy.
route. These policy changes, of course, come to us from North Carolina School Boards Association policies, the Lead Schools program. And they are in reaction to General Assembly and State Board of Education new policies. We have gone through these as a staff very, very carefully, and are recommending them to you. This is a first reading, so you do have until the board meeting in December to look at these and ask any questions that you would like to ask of us. We'd be happy to respond to that. But for the sake of time tonight, I suggest maybe that we, unless you have already gone through some of these and have questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, let's move on.
Any questions on the policy revisions at this point in time? All right, we will move to the action portion of our agenda. The first item is the Teach for America agreement by Ms. Harry.
While she is coming up and getting ready, this is the agreement that goes with the very good news we received a couple of board meetings ago concerning Teach for America wanting to do their summer program to train their teachers here in the district. And of course, it means great benefits for our students as well as our teachers, and a chance to look at the Teach for America teachers while they're in their training process. There are some other districts very jealous that we're getting this opportunity, by the way.
Yeah.
Good.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight to speak to you about the Teach for America program. We just have very few slides that we'd like to go through with you. Everyone's tired. We have been working, Ms. Hazelgrove and I have been working with Teach for America on the Eastern North Carolina Residency Program for the upcoming summer of 2016. We will have approximately 40 teachers that will be living here in Lenoir County that will be training to be members of the Teach for America Corps. So we are, the contract was provided to you in board docs, so you kind of have the meat of the arrangement that we would like to enter into to Teach for America. The regional vision is that all children in Eastern North Carolina will attain excellent education that helps them seize their right to a high education that prepares them for a full life of real choices. This is a critical pathway to a more just and equitable Eastern North Carolina. The residency vision is that true excellence in education requires a commitment to equity and social justice. We will prepare creative, culturally competent, critically reflective core members who possess deep curiosity in their Eastern North Carolina placement specifically and their area of practice as they work collaboratively with local and regional partners to achieve high-quality education for all. We will focus on these elements so that students achieve clear and meaningful academic and personal growth, that core members develop the foundational skills to be effective teachers so they commit to the profession, and the core members become true community partners so they commit to the region. There are 3 priority goals for Teach for America with regard specifically to this residency program, is that it is rooted in place, it's growth for all, and then it's a professional experience.
And what's so unusual about this summer residency program is that in all summers prior, the Teach for America core members have been trained in Oklahoma or in Texas or Louisiana, in Mississippi. They've lived in college dorms and then been bused to the schools where summer school students are for them to train. So what I'm so excited about is that our teachers will be training here actually in Eastern North Carolina, where they will be living, where they will be working. Instead of living in college dorms, it will be real life teacher living. They will be living in houses. They will be provided stipends so that they will be going to local grocery stores. They'll be cooking for themselves and doing lesson plans and going to work. And it is a wonderful opportunity for our community. There will certainly be core members training here this summer that will be hired by our school system and teaching in our schools next year, but we'll also be training teachers that will be working in Duplin County or Sampson County, Clinton City, Pitt County. But they'll all be living and teaching in Lenoir County for this summer. So it's a wonderful opportunity for our entire community and certainly for our students to have Teach for America providing summer school and summer enrichment for the students in Lenoir County.
Teach for America and Eastern North Carolina will share some of these common things. The CM stands for core member. TFA will provide core member training. They will provide training for all personnel. They will be hiring a number of our teachers, about 6 to 6 or 7 of our teachers to serve as master teachers. They'll also be hiring an administrator to be responsible for the sites. So where we have children, we have our administrators. TFA will also provide the personnel salaries. So there'll be 7 curriculum and instruction partners, 5 master teachers, 3 to 4 teacher leadership developers, 1 school director, and 1 school operations manager. They'll provide the core member their room and board, like Ms. Hazelgrove just referenced. They will also provide them transportation. They'll have gas money. Essentially, they're told to bring their own vehicles. And TFA will also provide the summer school marketing materials. So they are helping us to market the experience and opportunity for this summer.
And then Lenoir County will share in some of the costs, support personnel, the custodians of the buildings, for example, operational cost. We will pay for copies made or maintenance supplies, general administrative costs such as copy machines and supplies. And then we will also pay for transportation of students to their school sites. And then you have in the agreement a lot of other
details of the summer experience.
Our attorneys have worked with this agreement and are giving it to you. It's something that they have signed off on. This is a great opportunity for the district. Certainly you can ask them any questions that you would like, but I recommend highly that you approve this. This is which is a wonderful opportunity for us and for our students and for our teachers.
Any way to determine what our share of the cost is going to be? I mean, is there any way to come up with something close, ballpark?
I don't know if we have an actual number. It's not anything that really scares us. The big item on there is the
It
transportation.
would be comparable to currently what we have with summer programs that we do, summer enrichment programs, and every summer we've been doing something like for the last couple of summers with our enrichment camps, and it would be comparable to that. So it's something in looking ahead to this that we've already budgeted for, and really, as Mr. Mitchell could tell you, you never really know until you see where the kids who are actually a part of it live and you map out those bus routes. However, we can ballpark it and know that it's going to be in the range of what we're used to for our summer experiences.
And also what we can afford within our budget that we have. So that is not a scary factor for us.
But the budget reflection would be on the summer enrichment.
Yeah.
Right.
But it really is going to be a wonderful opportunity for the students, and I think the entire community.
And the summer experiences that we provide, as you know, Read to Achieve, which has been traditionally for third grade, but it is being extended this coming year. The Read to Achieve law has been amended. So we will also be including first graders and second graders in Read to Achieve camp. And we are working with Teach for America to discuss how we can fold that into the teachers' experience, the core members' experiences this summer. There's lots of ways. Teach for America is being very flexible with us. They want this to be exactly what we need it to be. They're not forcing any structure on us at all. We're really able to build what we need. So we're looking at lots of different options. It will really blend beautifully with the summer experiences that we traditionally either are mandated to provide through Read to Achieve, and hopefully one might be able to fold in some of our STEM experiences as well. So it's going to work out really well.
So it looks like they want 400 students enrolled by March 1st.
They would love that.
Yeah. We have to have at least 300.
300.
And we could take as many as 6.
Okay.
So talk it up.
Yeah. We're working.
Do you have an idea how many you have an anticipated number? That's what I was going to be a question. You have any idea how many students this may impact?
We got a bunch of them eligible.
We do.
We do. The core members will be trained in elementary, starting in first grade. So they've asked for students in first grade through 12th grade. So it's a wide range, but we also are taking into consideration our low performing schools too, and where we have some great needs, and trying to focus some of this opportunity to where we know we have tremendous need. But at the same time, we do not want this to be a summer school. We want it to be a really great learning experience for kids, all kids. So we want it to serve our particular needs in Lenore County, which we just got finished talking about. We also want to be able to offer quality enrichment opportunities for our students who are high achieving, and we wouldn't be able to offer this to them otherwise.
Be a good recruiting thing too.
Right.
Hopefully
Yes.
right.
Oh, yeah.
We know that is our biggest
Marketing.
hurdle.
Yeah.
Well, we are working very closely with TFA. Our Yanessa Miller's contact information was at the end of the presentation. As a matter of fact, we're meeting with her again next week. We're in regular contact with her. So it's a great working relationship. We're getting there. We definitely know what our goals are.
Do we have a motion to approve the
So
Teach for
moved, Mr.
America
Chairman.
agreement?
Yeah.
So
Motion by Mr. Nobles. Do we have a second?
second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion on the Teach for America agreement? Then we'll call it for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. It is approved.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck. The next item is the fines and forfeitures revenue litigation. Ms. Waller.
Thanks. There was a recent decision in the beginning of October by the North Carolina Court of Appeals I think I sent you all an email about this a week or two ago, but there was a discrepancy between a state statute and the state constitution, where the state constitution says that all fines, forfeitures, and other things that are collected as a penalty in the state have to come back to the county and then be used for the sole purpose of the schools. That was my rendition of what it says in the state constitution. There's also a state statute that says for anyone, you know, when you get stopped and you can plead down to an
Improper equipment.
yes, exactly, for the equipment. There's a $50 surcharge that's automatically added onto. There may be other fines and fees that go along with that, but there's a $50 surcharge, and under the state statute, that money goes to a misdemeanor confinement fund, and then it gets dispersed to the counties to be used to offset some of the costs of housing some misdemeanor offenders in your county jails. Richmond County decided to bring a lawsuit saying that this should be actually subject to the state constitution, that the statute is unconstitutional, and this $50 surcharge should come back to the local boards for the use of the used by the local boards for educational purposes, and the Court of Appeals agreed. The only difficulty is that because no other boards joined in it, it only applied to Richmond County. So Tharrington Smith has already got a couple dozen boards on board, and we will be filing a complaint later this week to seek all of those funds for the various counties to, moving forward, to be set aside to come back to the local boards. And we're also asking that any fees that had been distributed be redistributed for over the past 3 years. There's a 3-year statute of limitations. So it should be very economical for you all to join in, because like I said, we expect at least a couple dozen boards to join in. So all of that, the cost of the litigation will be dispersed. We're estimating $2,000 to $3,000 of defense costs. And when I look at the amount of money that you all would have gotten these past years, like for the fiscal year 14-15, it's $61,000. 13-14 was $53,000, $40,000 the year before. So we're looking at potentially somewhere around $140,000 to $150,000 for the past 3 years, and then whatever money gets collected moving forward.
Just one question. It won't make it more difficult to get an improper equipment.
It has no effect on that, to my knowledge.
That's important.
We want to do that.
Yeah, that's very important. Another question would be, you don't foresee at any time that there would be a blanket thing covering the whole state eventually?
It doesn't look like it. I think, perhaps with this litigation, it may, if there's a sufficient number of boards on it, they may go ahead and I think once we file it, other boards can jump in. So we would expect it to be pretty far-reaching. But right now, there's no impact. In fact, at the end of the decision, it said this only applies to Richmond County, even though we're holding it unconstitutional. And the Office of Administrative Courts sent out a letter to all of the clerks of court saying, no other county pay any attention to this. We're going to have to wait and see what local boards do.
Motion to join the Fees and Finance Revenue litigation.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Hill, second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion? I'm in favor of litigation. Always am. We'll call it for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Of course.
It passes.
Always a sidebar.
I like litigation. Next item is surplus property. Mr. Williams, the
Yes,
pre-K
sir.
infant room.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We included in your packet an inventory list of items from our pre-K program, items that were used in the infant room, and because of dwindling participation and low sign-ups, they have discontinued the infant classroom. And in an effort to be more efficient and to use those funds from the surplus equipment, we are bringing this list before you tonight for your consideration and your approval, and we're requesting to have it declared surplus for sale. And I think their plan is, Ms. Dawson, our pre-K coordinator, is with us tonight. And I believe that their plan is to make these items available to local pre-K centers and daycare programs, and to sell them with the proceeds to go back to our pre-K program based at Teachers Memorial.
Move to approve the surplus
Question,
property.
please.
Question first.
Yeah, my question is, this is now.
Right.
But with with the activities that are going on in like Mazingo household and other households, is there a possibility, that the need might re-arise?
Well, I think
And if it does,
that was one of the questions that we asked them to make sure. Ms. Presley actually, before she left, started working on this project. And what she told us, and Ms. Dawson, you can chime in too, is that they had assessed that they would still be able to meet the need should it arise again, at least at a basic level. They would be able to get started. They would have enough equipment. This is over and above what they need to do basic business every day. Ms. Dawson, would you?
Pretty much, the lack of, we were serving Pittston High School parents, and just having them come to teachers, the transportation was an issue. So I think until we can have classrooms on our campuses at our high schools, we're not going to be very successful with it. And so right now, that's not something that we're ready to take on as a county, so.
But in terms of the equipment, you had more than enough just for one classroom at your site. You had enough for satellite locations as well.
Absolutely. And then if we did need to, then we would have the money to purchase items that would be specific to those classes.
And they're retaining enough. My understanding is you're retaining enough over and above this sale to do business if you say, for instance, next year add the infant class back.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Anderson, second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion on the surplus property? Therefore, all in favor, raise your right hand. Property is declared surplus. Next item is out-of-state school trips. It's like South Lenore wants to go out of state.
Yes, sir. We're bringing tonight before you a request from South Lenore High School. The FBLA program there is requesting to go to Charleston, South Carolina, November 13th through the 15th for competition, I believe.
Do we have a motion to approve the out-of-state school trip? Motion by Mr. Nobles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion on the out-of-state school trip? All in favor, raise your right hand. The trip is approved. We will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Lenore County Board of Education go into closed session under Lenore County General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee.
Motion made by Mr. Hill. We have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, raise your right hand. We are now in closed session.
Mr. Chairman.
We are back in open session. We will entertain a motion to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Motion to approve the personnel report and the addendum as presented.
All right, motion made by Mr. Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nobles. All in favor of approving the personnel report with the addendum, raise your right hand. It is approved. Next item, we'll entertain a motion to approve the, make sure I get it right, the interim superintendent's contract as amended in closed session.
Can I rephrase that?
Please.
Motion to amend the associate superintendent's contract as amended.
Motion to approve the associate superintendent's contract as amended.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Hill. Tell her how to write it down.
She got it.
All right, all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. It is unanimously approved. Move to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion moved by Mr. Anderson, second by Mr. Nobles. All in favor of adjournment, raise your right hand. We are now adjourned.